I've always been a fan of cyberpunk as a genre. The bleak outlook of the future. The world's dotted with skyscrapers and washed out in this eerie glow of neon lights. Technology that's gotten out of hand. Always a stark contrast to our more traditional science fiction where the future is hopeful and bright. Cyberpunk speaks to that part of me that doesn't have hope for the future anymore. The early examples of cyberpunk come from the late 60s from books such as Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Most of us know this as the film Blade Runner, but even with its origins in the 60s, cyberpunk is deeply tied to 80s culture. You have the music and the lights and the cars, and those dreadful leopard skin pants. When Cyberpunk 2077 was announced back in the sunny days of 2012, I was not really sure what to think. It wasn't a very exciting teaser trailer really, and I'm not the biggest fan of the Witcher games. They have good world elements and interesting gameplay, but their story and characters never quite did it for me. So I didn't know if Project Red were gonna do anything that exciting or interesting with Cyberpunk, and with a real lack of Cyberpunk games at the time, I was quite worried we wouldn't get any more Cyberpunk games. This was it, just this one game. And it's now 2021. The world is very different, and I finally gotten Cyberpunk 2077. And I wanted to see just how Cyberpunk is Cyberpunk 2077. And initially I'm quite pleased. I didn't think I would be. The screenshots weren't very good. Everything's very bright and looks modern in all the wrong sort of ways. But I do feel that it's very different in the game. You have this great feeling of oppression in the lower levels of the city. Everything's dark and cramped. And then there's skyscrapers that are impossibly beautiful in the distance. Very much a world you can't get to. For example, these vending machines are a great element of world building. There is a huge problem with crime in the city. The mega corporations don't have any interest in fixing it. So here you go, you can come and buy a gun, you can fix it yourself. They're really easy to use. Walk up to it, buy. There you are, all ready. I'll just equip it quick. And pull your tab out, and away you go. You have a gun. Find out a number of shots, and you can use it for whatever you want. And when you're done, just throw it away.
God damn it!
But then the game instantly undermines this interesting world building element. I can go to my inventory. It's not my inventory. Go to my inventory, go to crafting. I can then select pretty much any gun I like. It takes 39 components. And then I've literally built a gun. I'll equip it so I can show you. Again, it's a fully working gun. It looks factory fresh. It works perfectly fine. And it undermines the fact I can buy a gun from a vending machine when this is perfectly... And for me, the whole game is pulled down by this as an issue. There's a huge disconnect between the gameplay and the world. Some items can't be used unless you're the right level. And they're things like tank tops. It doesn't make any sense. Or you have things like bullet sponge enemies who you can shoot over and over in the head and they just ignore you. There's no real tactile feedback to it because they're just numbers going into them. Some enemies are even denoted by a skull, and that means they are too high a level compared to you. They aren't better equipped, they aren't more aggressive or anything, they're just simply a higher level, and it gates off areas of the world. And I'm more disappointed by this than I envisioned. I really didn't expect to enjoy the game in any level, and this was just going to be the game is awful. But I did get pulled into the world. I do want to see more of Night City. I do enjoy it. But when I have to engage with the systems as RPG, which is like forced into it, it doesn't work. It's quite frustrating. Role-playing games are great for obfuscating what you're doing, but when you're in a first-person shooter, you can get rid of many of those barriers, but in this, they simply haven't. There is an amazing game in there somewhere, but it is stuck in this shell of this dreadful game. But since 2012, wonderful things have happened in terms of gaming. I don't know if this is linked to 2077 or just a coincidence, but there is now a great number of amazing Cyberpunk games out there. There's a reboot of the Shadowrun. Things like Super Hot are just so engaging, and you are really just so much choice. There's great films and TV shows, and really after all this time, I don't think we even need Cyberpunk 2077 anymore.